Today, this episode might be earlier or later, depending on if you're following a different calendar. This is ChillPoint. If you are following a calendar that isn't the calendar that the rest of us all follow, then this episode could not be at the time that and the date that it says on our calendar.
Yeah,
so
whatever your Friday is.
if that's the case, then I apologize for the confusion.
I mean,
Although, to be fair, I think it's mostly your fault for the confusion.
I looked at the
Mr.
Final Fantasy XIV calendar, and from what I can tell, it's still the same as ours. They just named all the months differently.
That's like, I feel like that's 99% of like fantasy world calendars are like, this is a weird, amazing, magical world. It calls February Fuber's Day.
Yeah, and it's exactly
exactly the same as our
12 months long.
calendar.
Yeah. It's like no, don't do that. Come up with a better system. Don't make it 365 days. It doesn't. A planet doesn't have to revolve around the star in 365 days. It doesn't have to do that, right?
Well,
Oh shit! What if it did?
no.
What if all habitable planets have to do that?
Is that why we haven't found life in
That
other
might
planets?
be why. What if the perfect habitable zone for a planet means that you'd
Beach.
have? We are wow! I got us way off track.
Beach, you promised
Yeah.
Paul that you would not get back into this conversation that we started.
Yes.
Okay.
If he did his
Let's-
intro that he did, and he did do it, so you have to uphold your end.
I want to talk about video games.
Let's talk about ChillPoint and Checkpoint and video games. That's a new off the rails record. I don't think so.
No.
Oh no, we've definitely just started off the rails.
Hey everybody, welcome to ChillPoint, the show where we talk about all the video game news of the week and also give you some more info about this week's episode of Checkpoint, which went up on the LRRVG YouTube channel yesterday. So if you haven't checked that out, you should, but probably not right now because you're busy watching this. And it would be rude to
I
split
don't
your
know.
attention.
You just like put the audio for one in like your left ear and put the audio for the other in here, and that episode's only like maybe 10 minutes. You're only gonna do that for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Or put it on double speed and do it for 5.
I mean, my stories were really good, so I want you to at least concentrate on what I had to say.
Right. Put Beach's stories specifically on half speed.
Yeah. And speaking of Beach stories, this is Sonic's anniversary. What anniversary we'll never know. But Sonic is another year older.
Sonic, perpetually 30.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like no. If he was like in Hollywood, it would be his 29th anniversary over.
Exactly.
And over again.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you want to be able to make that 30 under 30 list, and it's really easy if you never age past the point.
I mean, Sonic has definitely undergone a couple of facelifts over the years.
Yeah.
And eye connections.
Were they always together?
I don't know if they were. I don't think they were high enough resolution to be connected.
I feel like they
before.
were always
Yeah, maybe.
together.
Yeah, I know that's a rather drastic.
At least in the cartoons.
Surgical procedure.
I don't know about the games.
Anyway,
I never really saw him on like a full frontal view in the games too much.
But he has a new holiday to celebrate. It seems.
yeah,
Halloween?
but Sonic Team has a whole brand new logo.
Yeah.
Well, they've got the same logo, but a new run-up to the logo.
He runs through some stuff and then makes the logo happen. It's actually pretty nifty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. Looks and what I like about any sort of intro sequence for like anything is when it's over in about 4 or 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Because there are some movies that I've watched where I start watching, I'm like, okay, cool, this is a weird way to start the movie, but all right. And then like about 20 seconds later, it's like, oh, it's just somebody's production credit. They can get fucked.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, no, I hate that.
I think I've seen this movie before.
Yeah.
I was actually one of the things that this story made me think of. So this is the Sonic Team's new logo, and the idea the Sonic Team
Yeah.
as an entity within Sega. I remember that like certainly when I was a kid. After after the point, after the Dreamcast, when Sega was no longer producing their own systems.
Yeah.
I remember, like, it was like seeing that like Sonic team. I remember like thinking like, oh shit,
Yeah.
these guys know what they're doing. Like
Yeah.
Sonic, like this is the team that made. Like I'm
Well,
pretty
because
sure
they made Knights and stuff too,
Yeah,
right?
I'm pretty
Knights
sure
of the
that
Dreams.
was like. I mean, I'm pretty sure that perception was like not true, and the name Sonic Team has lost some of its luster over the years.
It's weird though to think, because it's like when Nintendo makes a video game, because that's what I know mostly, right? You never see Nintendo EAD1 or EAD2 or whatever. They never put up like, what is the team that made this game?
Yeah,
It's just always
Zelda team.
Yeah, it's like always just Nintendo, and you're like, okay, so Nintendo made this thing, and they have then this. Whether it's like the best game they've ever made, or whether it's kind of a middling entry in the Kirby franchise, it's just always feels like this is by Nintendo.
right.
And yeah, so to see Sonic Team get their own logo, I always thought was an interesting thing too, because it was basically saying it's like, the guys who did these, we want you to know that those folks also did this.
Well, and especially once Sega wasn't producing their own consoles,
Right.
So then it's like, that sort of expertise that was developed for Sonic and for these other things is now being, you get to see it on PlayStation, or you get to see it on, other
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, like Nintendo. Sure, I'm not sure that I don't pay that much attention to the credit scenes, but I could see them not listing their internal dev studios, but they still do list things like Monolith Soft and,
Yes.
and HAL, which would show up on your Kirby games and
Right.
whatnot because they are external.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, they don't like. There's a lot of teams like like say Ubisoft. If you get an Ubisoft game, there'll be credits of them. There'll be like Ubisoft Montreal, Ubisoft blah, Ubisoft Quebec, Ubisoft Vancouver, Ubisoft. There's a
40
billion
of them,
Ubisoft studio. I think we did a thing on Unskippable one time for like Assassin's Creed 3 or 4.
Right.
And there's literally 10 Ubisoft studios like in the credits before. It's like
Yeah.
Ubisoft Montreal, Ubisoft.
And that's the opening credits.
Yeah. It's just showing the different studios, and it's like, man, there's a lot of studios like involved in like separate elements of this.
Yeah. It definitely, I think it's kind of neat that because it also Sonic Team, for some reason, because it's a team, I don't know why this is, it always feels like it's a small group of people. It doesn't feel like a studio. It feels like a team.
It has a feel like the production team names you see on anime.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Where it's like, oh, this was named by Project such and such, and it's like the name of the anime.
Yeah.
I would assume that like probably nobody who was involved in like the original classic Sonic games is on Sonic Team anymore, right?
I would assume that's true, yes.
But yeah, it's you can you think about like other like as it like Zelda Team, other franchises that you would that it's like, oh man, that would be cool if they like sort of, because sometimes you sort of hear be like, oh, these are the same guys who made
Yeah, because
Blah.
if a thing came up that said Team Triforce, I'd be like, okay, interesting.
Oh, that
like,
sounds like a good team name.
right? And like, but it would also be like a really unusual thing to be like, wow, that's, because then how do you define? Because you just said like, whoever did the original Sonic the Hedgehogs for Sega Genesis, how many of them are still around on Sonic Team, and how many people have been replaced over the years? And at what point is it kind of like a ship of Theseus, right?
right, and clearly it's a marketing thing,
Yeah.
or whatever. But and and Sega has many, would probably have many internal studios.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's just kind of a.
I mean, you don't lose a team name just because the people who were originally there leave.
Right.
Like if Paul, Graham, and Kathleen, and I guess James all left Lure, and Lure still happened, we'd still be known as Lure.
Yeah, Loading Ready Run would still be an ongoing concern, I'm sure. Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know what universe that all actually works out, but
and I mean, there's lots of cases where that has happened in especially in the video game industry, where the
talent empties out, but the the studio stays the same.
but like the founding people who built the thing
Yeah.
go away, but the studio's still there. Often it doesn't work out that well.
No.
especially on a really small studio.
But anyway, like for instance, like Rare, which is, we were just talking about the GoldenEye the
Yeah.
other day. and Rare is this like vaunted huge studio, was made all the things. Which I think they do like tech support now mostly. Like Rare is very much like they're, because Microsoft bought them and stuff. Like I don't think they're really doing any like, and I don't know if any people who were involved in Rare are still involved with that. But it's like, yeah.
I mean, I feel like if everybody who was in Rare was still in Rare, like time just changes people as well. They might not necessarily, like Rare might not be just super awesome like everyone thinks it is, but because they've all left, you can do that thing where you're like, well, old Rare was great.
Yeah.
New Rare, you can be like that and be objectively like, oh well, I can see where the cut happens. But sometimes groups of people stay together, and they still just end up being later anyway.
Sometimes it wasn't necessarily like the people; it was the time and the place and
sometimes
the
people peak.
Yeah.
I mean, that's then
go on a slow downward trajectory.
That's definitely been the fear that I've had about, like, I shouldn't say a fear, but because it is just a concern. It's like Miyamoto had made many great games in like the first maybe 10 years of his career, like that very notable stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And then as he's kind of become this. He strikes me as the kind of guy who can walk around Nintendo in a cardigan and just walk in anybody's room and say, hey, can I see what you're working on? Everyone's like, yes. And then he just sits down for 20 minutes and kind of noodles with it. And he's like, this is good, but I would fix this and I'd fix that. And be like, you're right. I will go fix those things. And then he can just tootle out to go do something else and like draw more Pikmin or something. It's like, I know he's got skills.
Please describe to me this cardigan.
It's this like little kind of like
what color is it?
grayish blue cardigan that's
pockets.
It's got a shawl collar, like a really like kind of like this one, right?
Yeah,
But like an actual shawl collar that comes all the way down, and it's just got like a couple of big pockets, and he just walks around. And
do you think it's like
he has like a mug of tea that
I'm imagining something almost like a couch and sweater.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Yeah, do you think it's
I don't know why he's wearing a couch and sweater.
Do you think it's like custom made, where it's like if you look, you can find tiny Pikmin on it and little gaming references?
Yeah, but it was like made by one of his granddaughters or something.
Aww.
Absolutely. And it's just like I picture this kind of thing of I just walk around and go into people's like workspaces and be like, I want to play your little game for a bit, and they like, I have a prototype, and they just let him play it, and he like gives him some notes and he walks away. Because I'm like, Miyamoto hasn't done anything programming wise on like Zelda, I'm pretty sure, for years. Like Eiji Aonuma controls that project, and Eiji Aonuma is the producer. He's not a programmer.
Like he's just in the sort of conceptual phases.
And it's like we know names of people who are doing stuff, but a lot of the nitty-gritty work is of course being done by a ton of people whose names we will never learn the name of. So it feels weird to me to be like, oh, we boil down these people to be like they are the gods of our video games, and it's like, but all they're doing is like you say, they're doing largely conceptual work. And with Sonic Team, it's kind of the same thing where I'm like, some of these names that might still be left in Sonic Team might not even be people who are developing the Sonic game anymore. They're just people who are part of the planning process for it.
Mm.
I mean, that feels like the description sounds like a wholesome version of how they say like Steve Jobs used to do. What is it called? Management by walking around.
Yes,
was the thing where Jobs would just like wander around, walk into somebody's like cubicle, look at their stuff for a few minutes, and then be like, "This is total shit. Redo it."
Yeah. Stop what you're doing. You need to do something different. Yeah.
Yeah. He made a lot of cool things. Apparently, kind of an asshole.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That was a lot out of a Sonic story.
It's not to say that the people at the top, like at the planning stages, aren't important to a thing as well, but like, sometimes I think we all go too far with that. So
it's very easy. It's easier to want to look at one person or a small team of people and go, they made that thing, than it is to try to conceptualize that a project took 2,000 people to make, or even 300 people to make, right? You kind of want to have a face, and it's very easy on something like a book because the author's name is on it, and chances are good they did most of the writing of that, right? Yeah. But when it comes to a game, especially a large studio game,
that sort of auteur idea, it happens with like movies and stuff too, right? It's like how much of
do you lay at the feet of the director or the writer?
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and you'll hold one person up
Yeah.
when there's way more than one person who worked on it, and probably they did a very tiny amount of work in comparison.
So yes, anyway, Sonic Team is where we started on that. Sorry.
Yep, where are we going?
But now let's talk about these GTA 6 leaks.
Yeah, holy crap.
Which was like a serious big deal. This is not this wasn't just like, oh, some stuff leaked, some like screenshots leaked or whatever. This is like,
this is a hack.
Got hacked, and gigabytes worth of images, video, and source code for GTA 5, possibly GTA 6, and other Rockstar games.
Yeah.
I think there's been talked about like Red Dead and stuff too.
Oh, right. Good.
So yeah, real serious thing, and obviously there's the so the funny thing is, so there's this, the shot of the tweet where the guy's like, hey, I've been in game development for a while, and graphics are the first thing that you do. So the fact that this looks like garbage means that they still have to do all the missions and stuff.
Yeah.
But these are what the graphics are going to look like in the final GTA 6. So, we're in trouble.
And I can't, the brick wall idiocy of a comment like that just floors me, because I'm like, let's look at all the other games that Rockstar has made up until this point, and do they all look like that? So you're telling me that Rockstar, a company that has like prided itself on trying to bake in more and more realism, and had some really weird frickin' like results as a result of it, like all the crazy Red Dead Redemption 2 screw ups and stuff. It's like, but you have a company that's trying to really work hard at doing that, and you're like, so they just stopped and said, fuck it, just make them boxes with little pointers on them.
I'm sorry. Are you telling me this tweet was not sarcastic?
Well,
no, what? So
okay, so no, your reaction suggests that you're reading it as if it's not.
I'm reading it straight.
No, it was straight.
Yeah.
This was somebody.
This person.
This is an honest reaction.
This was an honest reaction
Yeah.
that somebody put. And so the interesting thing about this, I find anyway, is that this guy put out this thing, and then he doubled down a few times too. So like it seemed pretty clear.
Oh, good.
But then of course, various game developers from both Rockstar and other companies sort of came out of the woodwork.
To dunk on this person.
Dunk on this guy,
Yeah.
and interestingly being like, hey, this is what my game looked like at this stage in the process. So there's been sort of a joke about, hey, if you want to learn, if you want to see like in-process development stuff, just have it take so bad on the internet that game developers are compelled to show their stuff because it's silly. The funny thing about this, though, is like I was looking around for, I wanted to get a screenshot. Like, Graham was like, who I believe wrote this story. He was like,
get a screenshot of.
Can we find like a real screen? Like he was sort of in the story. Kathleen read it.
Yeah.
She sort of paraphrases what people were saying.
Yeah.
But Graham was like, "Can we get a real screenshot of
somebody's bad take?"
And so I spent a fair amount of time looking around on, the leaks on like where the leaks were originally posted on like Reddit and Twitter and different stuff and things.
Yeah.
As far as I could tell, this is like one of the only, like this guy did this and everybody just. Like all of the articles that I've seen about it are referencing this one thing. Everybody is just dunking on this one guy.
This is how does it feel to be the main character of Twitter for a day, right?
I'm terrible,
and
honestly.
most of the response I've seen from like people on like Reddit and stuff, most of the responses and stuff was like people being like, holy shit, is this real? And this is like the biggest hack I've ever seen. Yeah. And all that kind of stuff.
But nothing about like, oh, this person is
like,
definitely right about how.
But not people being like, this looks like dog shit. This is clearly, the next game is going to be bad. Apparently, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Him?
Somebody just posted. America just
You didn't,
posted.
yeah,
that,
you didn't pick that up on the microphone. Hi, Graham. That yes, in the UK they've apparently picked up a teenager who is connected to the GTA 6 leak. This is okay. Also,
17-year-old from Oxford.
good Christ, if it's the same person who did the Uber hack, if it is the same person, then allegedly, then that's going to be quite the thing. Because then to catch somebody who's doing all sorts of bullshit. I want to address something about the word leak, though. Should we talk about the teenager first, or can I get on to my thing that I want to talk about the word leak?
the only thing I'd say, I don't know, the only thing I'd say about the teenager thing is it's, of course, allegedly, also in connection with.
Right.
So it's possible, it's entirely possible this is not,
They're not the only one, or
they're not the only
they were
one,
helping someone.
or they're
or-
involved in, but they're
Okay.
involved in some way.
Yeah.
All right, Beach, go off.
So a leak to me, when I think of like something leaking, I mean, if we want to talk plumbing, right? It's like I have a plumbing leak. It's like it's not something you did on purpose, right? It's something that happened by accident. It's like something that wears down and then there's a problem and then water is everywhere. If you want to talk, somebody leaks something. Like when something gets leaked, I generally think it's because somebody who is intrinsic to the process, somebody who's inside the whole thing, has said, "I need people to know about this," and they let
So
all
it's-
that information out.
Yeah, I think like people in chat are saying like a leak is from the inside.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a
it's-
hack is generally from the outside. It's somebody saying, "I need to gain access to a thing," and so I get in there and I grab a bunch of stuff
Yes.
and I
No,
and I
this
put
is-
and I'm not
this is
authorized to
more of a
have it
hack.
and I spread it around. Whereas a leak always sounds like it's somebody who's authorized to have things deciding to share it with everybody without authorization.
No. A leak is not always a person who's been authorized, because friend DA things happen. People talk about jobs to people they weren't supposed to.
Sure.
People talk.
But
to...
that's still information coming from somebody within the organization going
Sure.
to somebody outside when they shouldn't have done
Yes.
that.
But a leak is more information that wasn't supposed to get out yet because it's not part of the marketing that was given out from somebody inside.
Yeah.
But the way you're stating it sounds like a person who definitely works at that company definitely went on the internet and leaked out that information when generally they're a step removed. They're giving that info to somebody else who's going to leak that info.
Right, but that's still somebody saying I'm going to give this to somebody else, and then I'm going to trust that they're not going to give it away. But then they're not under any sort of NDA, so then they give it away anyway.
Sometimes they know that person's going to give it away.
Right, but but it's still. If I knew somebody was going to give out information, and I'm like I need to let them know about it so that they can tell the people about it. It's like that's definitely a leak. I get that because it's still coming from inside. Somebody's made a decision inside the organization to say I want this to come out.
Okay.
So I'm going to find a method to do it. But this is a case where it seems like a dude did a lot of hacking, be it complicated or no, social engineering or no, managed to gain access to something and get a whole bunch of stuff not given to them, but they took it.
They stole stuff. Yes.
Yeah, and it is stealing at that point, right? Because
Yes.
it's like you're not authorized to have this, and you went in and you took it
When
anyway.
you take something that is not yours without permission, that is stealing. That
Yeah.
is the basic definition of that.
Yeah, and I'm like, we shouldn't refer to these things as hacks or not as leaks, because I'm like, I think it gives people the wrong impression that anytime anything leaves a company, well, it's a leak. And it's like, I think that the word is important because knowing if something
Okay.
has been leaked means that it's like, well, we're letting you know, or somebody has decided to let you know this, whether they were supposed to or not. A person connected with the process has let it out, and that gives it a whole different, There's a word I'm thinking of. Gives it a whole different shine in a way to me.
I mean, I would say in some ways you could also say that like this person hacked this information and then they leaked it.
Right, because if you could say
So
that.
so like the hacking wasn't the leak, but them releasing, if they had just hacked it and kept the data, that still would have been a hack, not a leak.
It's
Leaking it is making it public.
I guess because
Yeah,
to me
kind
it's
of.
like I don't even feel right about that in a way. I know that WikiLeaks is a thing where it's like people who are unconnected with information might gain information and then give it to WikiLeaks and then they let the entire world know about it. And it's like, right, but I don't know. Like
Okay.
when it's somebody who's authorized
Peach.
to have information and not authorized to give it out gives it out, then I'm like, I think that says a lot more about what has happened in that case. Which
Sure,
is why I want
okay.
why I would call that a leak
If I
over anything
hack
else.
your
but-
diary,
yeah.
and then I give that information away,
Yeah.
still a leak.
But I would consider it a hack.
But
Like,
I did hack.
Yeah.
But I still leaked.
Like,
I think that's the thing. It's there's
separate
two
pieces.
things happening, and they're both correct. I think the thing that you're mad about is that journalists are like, hey, this leak that happened, and that still did happen,
Right.
But it's in context of a hack. But talking about something getting hacked versus something being leaked is less interesting for what the clicks that they need.
yeah, and I feel like it muddies the term, because I feel like a leak to me always implies that a leak should have always implied that it came from someone within the organization saying, I'm finding a way to spread this to the
Okay.
outside. That's how I feel about that. I know that's changed. I know that's not, because language changes all the time, and we're in this case now where it's like, this is the thing that we say, this is the way that it is. But I'm like, I don't like that because it feels imprecise to me. But I can't do anything about that.
If
I can just be mad about it. It's the only thing I can be about it.
If I walked into Rare and I saw a thing I wasn't supposed to see,
Yeah.
and nobody saw that I saw that, and I walked out and that I told people about that, that's not a hack.
No, but that's still you gaining access to something you weren't supposed to have access to.
Yeah.
So would you call that a leak?
Would you
or
call that a leak?
I wouldn't call it a hack, and I wouldn't call it a leak.
Then what would you call it?
I don't know. That's the thing. Is there's got to be a word for that makes more sense. It's like, is it a breach? Like people are saying breach is good too, and I'm like, I guess it's a breach of
guess.
security because you would have.
I mean,
but-
sure.
what you're talking about seems like it's almost more going into like whistleblower
Kind of,
territory,
yeah. It's like I need to share this for some reason,
which is like a slightly different thing, obviously.
But even
Still
then,
hack and leak in both of those
if
cases.
if somebody inside Rockstar was like, "Yo, I need to share pictures of all this stuff because I need the online cloud or something," and they did it, and it's like I'm not intending to blow the whistle on anything with the organization. I'm just intending to try to
whistleblower does have a specific use.
Yeah, I'm trying to point at something that's wrong, and it's like, no, I'm just trying to show off how cool I am that I have access to this
Okay.
awesome thing. Like.
I don't think we're going to reach an agreement.
Oh no,
And I don't
absolutely
want
not.
to.
Yeah,
Are you done
I am.
spewing?
I am so done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we move on?
Yeah, absolutely. I just need to really get that off my chest that it bugs me.
I understand that, but I want to know that you're done
Do we-
so that we can move on.
Do we want to repurpose Squeet?
No.
Probably not.
No, I do not.
Yeah.
I would just like for you to finish drying out that excess water.
I mean, I was somebody for a long time who was like, don't say hack, say crack. Because a hacker is somebody who works for good, a cracker is somebody who works for bad, and then it just became a thing. It's like a hacker is somebody who breaks into shit and takes stuff, and that's
sure.
what we're all going to
And
say
I would
from
like
now
to
on.
avoid us going into
Yeah.
that deep of a semantics and move on.
Absolutely.
Can we do that?
Yes, I'm fine with us moving on.
All right, Paul.
All right. Well, yeah, I do like that the response from Rockstar has been like, this is serious.
Mm-hmm.
And where they're just explaining that this is early alpha stuff. This isn't even necessarily representing what the game currently is like. This
Right.
is even like before. This could have been some stuff from months ago.
Oh, right, because it's when you generate the prototype.
Whenever
yeah.
these particular things were made, maybe these demo videos were made to show to somebody 5 months ago. We don't know.
Absolutely.
Oh, right. Yeah, it could be. What do they call that? Like pitches.
Yeah, internal,
Such.
some sort of internal.
Or like we're trying to
Progress,
show off
yeah.
a certain kind of element, so we show off.
So the
this.
things that everyone's watching aren't actual, like, this is in-engine gameplay, a snapshot of what I've managed to get out of this hack. It's like, no, these are videos of stuff that people rendered.
I don't think there's actually any. I don't think there actually is like a functional game that people can play.
Right.
It's all been video and screenshots and some source code, but not actually something that people can put
Yeah.
together. So I like that and we've talked about it before, that sort of idea of like Rockstar being like, we're just kind of disappointed, and it's it's a bad feeling for the developers that people are seeing this like early work and complaining.
Yeah.
As Kathleen said, if people looked at like the first the first drafts of our scripts or the first, cut of our videos and stuff, and they're like, this isn't very good. It's like, yeah, because
Well
we
spotted.
edited it down.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know everybody's a thirsty fan goblin, and they want to. They say that thing. They're like, "Oh, I want to see it now," because there's an idea in their brain of what it already looks like.
Yeah.
And yes, we want things now. I think everybody's kind of geared towards that.
Yeah.
But there's a reason marketing doesn't show you stuff until certain ways and shows you certain shines. And some of that is we do want to sell you this thing, so we want to show you it in its best light.
Yeah.
So that maybe there's some stuff that's being cut. But in essence, it's more, this thing's not ready.
Yeah. A point that we make in the story, too, is it's been like 10 years since GTA 5 came out. And so a lot of people will be like, well, clearly that means that they've been working on GTA 6 all this time. And I'm like, no, that's not clear at all.
I mean, there's been a lot of work for GTA Online going on.
Exactly. And then even on top of that, it's like, you might have said, well, okay, we released GTA 5 and we're maybe a year out of maintenance on that, so that's going good, and we have other things we're working on, so now we should concentrate on what GTA 6 is going to look like. And it's like, sure, that was probably like, that could have just been a couple meetings here and there to be like, what are some ideas that we have about what we want to do, and let's really develop this. And it's like, and it's real low priority.
I think we should have people stealing cars. Okay, Jenkins.
Great.
Good thought. Good thought.
You get to keep your job.
We're really thinking outside the box here, people.
Yeah.
Can we make the protagonist a woman? I don't know. We should probably another 3 to 4 months of conversation about that.
I've found that I don't like to tell people, like, the fact is, sure, there could be a transparent thing where from top to bottom you see every meeting that happens and all the things, but then what you open up to is a lot of people with a lot of opinions who I've learned that it doesn't matter if I tell them why a thing is done a certain way, they don't care.
Yeah.
The old
Which is
Monday,
why I don't tell people why things are done a certain way a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Monday
it's just-
morning quarterback, whatever it's called.
It's just an
Yeah.
argument of them saying that they're right, regardless of whether or not the reasonings that I chose are right or wrong, but also, they're not the ones who get to make the choices in the end.
Or
And I've had friends who've worked in marketing positions and as developer positions in all kinds of places, and I've seen them the day after a leak comes out.
yeah.
And I dislike anyone who does leaks for that reason.
Yeah. Anytime you have a plan for like, we wanted to do this certain way, and then somebody just goes ahead and says, oh, hey, so, they're doing this now. And it's like, fuck. I had a whole plan that I felt really good about.
There's a good year of work I was working on that
Yeah.
you've obliterated in 5 seconds for some clicks.
Yeah.
Great. If you're whistleblowing and some real awful stuff is going on, great. Do that. But if you're just like, hey, I made a video that shows off, I hate you instantly.
Yeah.
The
Instantly.
yeah. So yeah, you end up with the thing like Star Citizen, where they had the huge timeline for making their timeline.
Yeah.
They had which they missed the deadlines on several occasions.
Yeah.
to release the new timeline system. Anyway.
I'd like to say, actually, since I've been told that that's why I've decided not to be transparent. I'm actually very transparent with chat on when things happen.
Yeah.
As much as I can be.
Yeah.
A
I think
good portion
Marquette's
of the time.
goofing with us.
I don't care.
I know.
I'm putting that out for people who make that statement
Yeah.
seriously. Because people do.
Yeah.
That's also why I didn't name them.
Yeah.
So good job.
Yeah. I just wanted to let people know that it's like, this is, don't freak out about what you're seeing. So.
I've wasted so much time arguing with people.
I know.
And of course, I mean, obviously it's a whole different setup for something like we're doing. But in some cases, a similar thing applies to any project where you have especially if you have a long timeline, things change.
Yeah.
For reasons
goodness.
that cannot be, that cannot be predicted often.
Absolutely.
So I used to follow people who were like, oh, I listen to, I have inside sources and I know things and that thing's totally going to happen. And you see the you see the thing that they said was going to happen not happen, and the response is always like, well, plans change, and they're not wrong.
Yeah.
But how do you really know? It's really irritating to follow something for long enough to be like, oh, plans have changed like 6 times. I'm going to not follow this anymore because this is actually just hard to listen to.
Game development's one of those things where I always feel like the new Zelda has been coming out for a while. Right? It's like, oh, we're waiting on the new Zelda. It's like, yes, we definitely have. And I've just been, maybe this is by maturing, by getting older and whatever, like being really excited for games and stuff when I was really young, and I know that's kind of like evened out a lot over the years.
Getting older, not necessarily equal to maturity.
It's fair, yeah. I think
getting older is a thing that just happens by itself over time.
I feel like I have wrinkles in my brain that have essentially said, if you just lower your expectations for when things need to happen, you can actually be a lot happier. And I was like, yeah, actually, you're right. Especially working in a creative field like this, and it's kind of like understanding that's like stuff could change so much, or could change in a different direction, or that you have to like kind of that we're dealing with stuff, that we have to always be thinking about what are these things that we're going to do and how fast do we move on stuff, and that gives you another great perspective of, well, people in creative industries where they have to make something from scratch. It's like, especially, okay, let me reframe. When I learned how to code and discovered I was shit at it, I realized that I'm like, oh, if you make a video game, you're good at this.
Well,
and but it's like you are way better at this than I am, and I'm trying to do like 101 level coding, and I suck at this. It takes me forever to figure out how do I write this recursive thing, and how do I get it to work the way I want to, so I can solve the queen's problem or the knight's problem or whatever it was I was solving, right? And I realized as I'm doing that, I was like, oh, this is not simple stuff to do. I'm just writing one thing. There are hundreds of people who have to sit down and make a game, and it has to be great. And especially great games can take longer because it has to be really, really good. And there's all these, and everybody's doing all sorts of work to make this stuff happen. And then you see when like a thing goes wrong, and it's like, oh no, we have to double down doing one. I'm like, and that really like helped me reframe that. I'm like, oh, I should be a lot easier on people who make video games because they might run into a problem they didn't expect to get, and now they have to find where the problem is and fix it, and that could take a long time. Yeah. I'm just gonna let it, when a video game comes out, I'm just gonna enjoy the fact that it came out.
Sure.
Yeah.
I like, given the amount of people that even like a small team, especially if you look at like Team Cherry, and the game they did with Hollow Knight and whatnot, that because there's less people, it took them a lot longer than if there had been more people. But if you take a game, Red Dead Redemption 2, and probably the hundreds of people who had to work on that means somebody has to manage all those people.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like a good
game dev is hard.
And a very large chunk of, a significant percentage of those hundreds of people working on Red Dead Redemption are not programmers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
most of them, in fact, aren't programmers.
Yes.
There's all sorts of different stuff. Anyway.
Where are we?
We were talking about the
second story.
my favorite post, my favorite response to this that I saw in the Reddit post, where it was first post, is someone was like, "Holy shit!" I saw a screenshot from this I saw a screenshot from this a few hours ago,
right?
And I assumed it was total bullshit. And it turns out this guy actually does have an uncle who works at Rockstar or something. It's like he actually has the info. Anyway.
The myth, the legend.
Uncle
All right.
Rockstar.
In order to make things go faster, I promise to not say anything in regards to whatever the next story is.
I'm not saying you can't talk.
No, but I'm
don't
clearly
go down every single rat hole you find.
I'm clearly just promoting rat holes, so I promise to not say anything about the next story.
Speaking of promoting rat holes, FIFA 23 is the
shit.
I love this. Adding Ted Lasso and AFC Richmond and the entire AFC Richmond team to FIFA 23. what I love about this, so because they add the team, and then they also have like Ted Lasso and Coach Beard and everybody on as like the coaches that you see on the sidelines and stuff. And you can play as for the like career mode. You can like manage the team, right? And what I was thinking about this is, I guess, small spoilers for Ted Lasso, which is a great show you should watch. But to put it bluntly, AFC Richmond often doesn't do that well.
That is true. That is the point of their...
Which is part of the whole thing.
Right.
That Ted Lasso is not a soccer coach.
Yeah, if you've
he's a football coach.
Yeah, if you've not seen Ted Lasso, he is a football coach from the U.S. who gets brought over to England.
Yes.
And he is going to be a football coach in England, which is soccer for your U.S. players. Just watch the first episode. Watching him and Coach Beard talk in the airplane about what the different terms are between the U.S. and England are great.
And it's such a and it's the way so it's like, in order, I feel like it wouldn't be effective as a simulation unless it was also like, you've got to be you've got to have stats for like the how well the team is getting along with each other. And like the emotional fulfillment of the team.
If I can't watch Roy walk around the locker room and yell at people to inspire them, I don't want anything.
Which is like that's the thing that Ted Lasso actually cares about, right?
Yeah.
As a coach, right? Like I feel the weird thing is I feel like the mechanics of a video game make it so that you running this team would basically be running it like one of the bad guys in the TV show. Like, you're like running it in order to win as many matches as possible, as quickly as possible, cutting people who aren't doing well.
Yep.
Regardless of their personal whatever's going on in their lives. Because the game probably doesn't simulate that for every player. So it's just kind of funny that like you end up, it's like a TV show known for being, having this this wholesomeness and this heart to it that can't really be simulated in the game. And not necessarily known for the players playing amazing football. Although there are some amazing players on the team.
All right, hear me out. There are tactics football games you can play, by which I mean soccer, that run like tactics games on a grid where you make people do things. So what if we took the Fire Emblem way of doing stuff, put them in that, and then we can also have the dating sim stuff in between that Fire Emblem has become known for. You can walk around and inspire people. It's like all you can do in the encampment is run at people and inspire them.
As far as I know,
hit the believe poster.
There isn't like, dating between Ted Lasso and the team.
I'm not saying they have to date, just that if you use that kind of mechanic, you can have the interpersonal relationship thing. But why not let them date?
It's true. And as people have said, some of the chants for the different players might not really fly too well. Although Jamie Tart probably is okay. Maybe there's a copyright thing. I don't know.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
But Roy's probably would not fly. But yeah. I use, especially for this, I was very happy with this story. It says, it ends with that somehow, some way, someone's trying to inject this goodness, positive integrity into FIFA. And the picture that I showed there was of Roy, which, if you haven't watched the show, might not make a lot of sense. Or if you've just watched the first episode or two, might not make sense.
He's the best character.
But Roy is amazing.
Best character. Yeah. Forever.
He was sent from the future to be the perfect boyfriend.
I can't believe Hercules is in FIFA. Yeah. That was a shock.
What, like the Greek Hercules?
The Thor Hercules. Brett Goldstein. Roy Kent played Hercules. is playing Hercules in the
okay.
Marvel universe.
All right. Oh, right. Yes,
All
I
right.
do remember that part.
You're the one who had to point it out to me because I didn't realize.
I don't know why I'm the one who keeps noticing all the actors.
I don't know. It's
Like, you didn't notice the...
He didn't have his beard.
Titania in She-Hulk.
Yeah, Titania is Jamila Jamil from The Good Place.
Yep.
And I'm like,
I got
what?
thrown off because she's doing a different accent.
Yes, and she's so made up that I'm like,
she's
I don't
so
even see it.
good.
Yeah, she's really good. So,
Okay. You can... Yeah.
Yes.
You can
You
go
go
ahead.
great.
What do you
I
got?
think I made it because there is a thing about here. Beach's gag about not being an Apple TV subscriber. So two things. One, we were subscribed to Apple TV, which is why we were able to watch all Ted Lasso.
We were subscribed because I got a year-long subscription for getting an iPad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's only 3 months, but it's like whenever you buy an Apple product, you get like 3 months of Apple TV.
Yeah.
So
Oh, I did good.
I was subscribed to Apple TV for like a while, just through like buying because I just happened to be buying random stuff at the right times.
and we're probably going to end up resubscribing.
Well, as soon as Ted Lasso
when Ted Lasso
season 3
comes back,
happens,
we'll probably
I'll
end up
resubscribe,
resubscribing,
and then we can catch up on the other shows that we were sort of watching.
even though I know people who are just getting copies of Ted Lasso as they're coming out and putting them onto their servers and stuff, so I can just watch them from there if I wanted to. But I'm like, I would rather put the money in at the time when the thing happens, and then that way we can also catch up on all the other stuff that's on Apple TV, which is some of it's pretty good.
Some good stuff.
The secondary thing, though, is that if you haven't seen it yet, I know that because we don't have a subscription right now, you can watch the first episode for free. So if you can get the Apple TV Plus app on your phone or whatever else that you have, you can just watch the first episode of practically everything they make for free. You don't have to have a subscription.
Yeah,
so it's
'cause
like that's kind of
It's
cool.
meant to be a way to entice you to subscribe.
And it will suck you in. It's really good. So yeah,
Ted Lasso's real good.
yeah.
And then the last story is about Embracer Group, who just wants to give a big hug to everybody.
Every
Yeah,
small
wow.
company who makes a game, apparently.
From video to not to video.
Yeah, although I find it pretty funny that saying that like Randy Pitchford from Gearbox is, like Tiny Tina's Wonderlands was a major victory, and we, quote, clearly have a new franchise on our hands.
Isn't Tiny Tina from
It's
a
a-
pre-established franchise?
It's a spin-off of Borderlands. It's not a new franchise.
Well, maybe she's about to get one.
I mean, Luigi's Mansion is kind of technically a spin-off of Mario Brothers, so
Well,
not a
still,
new-
it would,
it's not a
it
new
would still,
franchise.
it would still be considered part of the Mario franchise.
I
though,
guess
right?
that's fair,
It's
yeah.
just a subset of games.
nobody's actually, I guess there's never really, it's not a normal thing to have. Well, then wouldn't that still just be a part of Borderlands then? It's not, it is
Yes,
not a
that's
new
what we're
franchise.
saying.
Okay.
Also, I believe Borderlands 3 wasn't received as well as previous Borderlands.
Fair, okay.
And so, whereas the Tiny Tina's Wonderland, I think it's just like Borderlands 3, people were just like, okay, it's more Borderlands.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas Tiny Tina's Wonderland is basically Borderlands, but, it's got the fantasy. It's like
Right.
switching up more and more. It's more
Yeah,
interesting.
and they'll probably just spin that off into its own series as opposed to it being a one-time spin-off. That's what I take away when someone says, "Oh, we have a whole new franchise here," and they're using the word franchise wrong.
Jen said Frasier. I don't even know how to process that idea. I don't know what it means.
I still
Somebody
get
get Wheeler in here.
Holy
I still
shit.
get caught up on, okay, I know nobody knows what Zellers is anymore, but it's a department store that was in Canada and then, died. Gen Z was the name of their point program that they tried to do for people who were young. So anytime Gen Z
Rossetti.
gets brought up, I'm just like, I don't know how that works into Zellers as a Frasier thing. What?
Oh, because Frasier's a spin-off of Cheers. Okay.
Ah.
I see.
Oh, okay. I thought there was some sort of deeper, you see, in Tiny Tina is David Hyde Pierce, and Frasier is, and I was like, I don't even know how that could map onto another
Yeah,
thing.
isn't Tiny Tina's Adventures just Tiny Tina playing D&D?
Yeah, it's sort of, it's sort of
That was what I understood.
I think the idea is that it's sort of, I haven't actually played it, but it's like a sort of a framing device for a more kind of weird and wacky sort of fantasy version of Borderlands.
It seemed fun.
Bunkers
parts
and
of it I
badasses.
saw.
Well, good. I'm
I
glad
don't
that.
have time to play all the games that I think look interesting.
Good for Gearbox. They made another game people like.
Good for you.
And not so good for Volition, who made a Saints Row game that people are like,
Largely not seeing the
It's-
point of it, I guess.
Yeah. It's not even, it's one of those games where it's like not even, people didn't even not like it.
Yeah.
They just didn't
They
find
didn't-
it interesting
they didn't care?
enough to care.
Yeah.
Isn't this the first one in the Saints Row series where they had to pull back from
Well, it's not
being way up here?
it's not ridiculous because the whole point of it is it's like we have rebooted the idea of what Saints Row is because it's like
Sure.
you got to a point where it's completely bonkers off the
had-
wall.
Well, they had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Like they went into space and
Yeah,
stuff.
and it's like so, and then like because then Johnny Gat's Gat Out of Hell or whatever when they made that like spin-off game, and that was I think like the last time they made a Saints Row franchise game that was like that, and they said okay, so we'll start this again. They really didn't have to call it Saints Row. They could have just been like Volition's making a new game that's inspired by Saints Row, but it's a similar kind of thing, but it's not called Saints Row. It's called something completely different. They might have gotten somewhere with that. But they're like, we want to trade on the name, and we want you to feel like you're playing Saints Row, but you're playing it again from like the beginning. And I think that's where that fell down. It's
Okay.
like
Yeah,
I think there were a
like,
lot of expectations going into it, which
that's
people.
part of what I had heard.
Yeah,
But also, I heard very little.
yeah,
I mean, I know there's like, I focus in more on Nintendo, but I still do watch other stuff for games and advertising, and I just don't feel like I ever saw advertising for Saints Row.
It definitely
Like,
didn't
I'm seeing it on YouTube now.
it definitely didn't have that much hype to it.
Like, and I didn't see anyone talking about it. Nobody talking about getting pre-release copies to do their reviews.
And
I listen to a significant amount of video game podcasts.
I saw an ad on YouTube, and I saw Sam Makovich's review in Ars Technica, and that's all the like press I've seen.
Yeah, I think I saw like 0 punctuation on it,
Yeah.
which was just sort of like, yeah, it's not necessary.
Yeah.
It was, also apparently it was an Epic exclusive game, which, already limits its.
Right. So maybe
yeah.
it'll get another bump when it's not exclusive to Epic.
Yeah.
Although if the feeling of it isn't too hot, then maybe not.
That's an interesting take, though. So Tiber says pretty much everyone hated the characters. So, like anyone doing reviews, it seems they may have walked away with that intention of like, well, I don't like these characters for whatever reason. But it's like they updated for the current year, but apparently they thought that meant annoying TikTokers. And I'm like, but that is kind of the strongest. Like, if you're gonna pull the what's the most modern look at what young people are like, you're gonna look at whatever the stereotype
where
is.
they're hanging out,
yeah,
right?
and what the stereotype is, and it's basically everybody live streaming their life or sending clips of what they're doing 30 seconds at a time to the web in hopes that people will actually see what it is that they're doing and be like, oh, I will give you clout as a result of posting that stuff, right? And it's like that is kind of the reality we live in, and if you're my age, it's like I get TikTok, but I don't get TikTok. I get TikTok, but I just want people to post a link to a TikTok so I can watch and be like, it was funny, and then I can go back to whatever the hell it was I was doing. I'm not a TikTok person. I'm not a person who wants to sit there and watch shit on loop.
You don't want to watch TikTok.
I don't want to sit down with the app and do
for
it.
TikTok.
I don't want to make things for TikTok myself. I don't want to sit and watch it for an hour at a time, like that kind of thing. Even though it might be like lots of really good little content, it just kind of feels like that's not me, and so I have a hard time interacting with it. And I'm like, well, then was that the idea? Is that the people at Volition saying that, well, we better make something that's going to draw in, it's a fresh new Saints Row, so we make it for a fresh new potential audience to play it? Was that the idea?
But I think there is that aspect where it's like, if the people making the game are, older.
Yeah. How do you relate?
Older than the TikTok, than the sort of what they're trying to target. Then there's that thing where it's like, well, what do kids like? Kids like TikTok. All right,
but they're all annoying.
What's TikTok like? Well, it's annoying.
Yeah.
Okay, kids like annoying things.
Yeah.
Let's do it. And it's like, maybe you didn't quite get the aspect.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. If you've never really spent time on a platform or in a place, and all you know is, oh, this is where people go, and you go, you don't have like a good starting point, or like, is if you just go to YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you get told, watch a bunch of videos and see if you can understand YouTube.
Right.
And you've never interacted with that before, you're going to have the same
and it's
of experience.
Yeah.
and with any of these big sites, Reddit or YouTube or Tumblr or TikTok or whatever, as you watch, especially you get your experience of TikTok can be very significantly. You get kind of into these bubbles of you're like, oh, TikTok, that's great. That's that place where they all just like sing sea shanties all the time.
Yes.
And it's like, no, that's not. That's a very small thing.
No, isn't TikTok the place where everyone's boiling chicken and NyQuil? It's like, no. TikTok is that place where everybody posts things about cats or washing worms in water, or it's like
it's all the same place.
Yeah.
But the recommendation system kind of keeps things separate from each other. So what people sort of perceive as TikTok can be quite different. So
I'm just saying, the person who jumps in there to do their research, who knows nothing, and ends up with the idea that, wow, everyone's really annoying, because you're probably going to run into a bunch of TikToks that are dances, have like a lot of loud, flashy things.
Right.
Maybe that's not your style of entertainment.
Rather than doing sort of studying it rather than kind of doing it organically.
Yeah.
And my understanding is that the Saints Row game itself is largely focused on like these 4 kids who don't have anybody other than themselves and each other, trying to be like, well, what if we could just be the big thing? What if we could actually what if we could turn our lives around and make people care about who we are? And which is, I think, largely the idea of the original Saints Row, which is like you're starting a gang from scratch practically. And this is back to that same idea of like you're starting a gang, people who break laws for a living, you're starting that from scratch. I'm like, maybe that's really good, but I didn't play the game, so I don't know.
I've never heard anyone describe a gang as someone who breaks laws for a living.
That's the
I put it on my job application.
Yeah. What do you do? I am in a gang. I break laws for a living. What laws? Don't want to say.
I would say the breaking laws is more a side effect of the making a living.
Yeah.
Like, just breaking laws itself doesn't get you any money. It's to doing the thing.
Yeah.
And then sometimes that thing breaks a law.
Yeah, exactly.
I see you worked
But
at
you don't get like $10 every time you jaywalk.
I see.
If only. Oh my God.
I see you worked at a gang for like the last 10 years. Yeah, I worked in the IT department, mostly doing tickets. I personally did not break laws, but the people who I did help definitely probably did.
There's a gap in your resume between gangs. I was actually.
Yeah, it's gainfully employed.
Yeah. I was working at the Gap. That's why it's in my resume.
Anyway. And then Afghanistan is bad PUBG. There's not really much to say more about that because the Taliban feels that PUBG is a bad influence on kids.
Yeah, nothing about Fortnite though. How about that? God, Epic's got some shit going on with the Taliban. You heard it here first, folks.
Wow.
I mean,
no. Please, no.
No.
All right. Let's start talking. Let's talk about some of the things we didn't talk about on the episode of Checkpoint.
Okay, cool.
Starting with Perfect Head.
Right.
Which
Sex
is
point?
A feature. It's a feature. I was going to do a sex point if I was going to do Perfect Head.
I'm surprised you didn't.
It is a feature of Perfect Dark.
Uh-huh.
We talked about GoldenEye 007. Perfect Dark is the game that Rare made after GoldenEye because they didn't have the license to make more GoldenEye games.
Yeah, how many of you were awake and cognizant, like born and cognizant in 1999? Put your hands up in chat. Don't do that, obviously. This was a thing that we all heard about. That this was this cool feature, but we never got to see it.
You heard it? So you were aware of this
I
feature?
remember this.
Yeah, I was aware of this. I remember hearing someone talk about it like 6 months ago.
So this was here. Let me
as they were remembering that this was
switch
a thing.
over. So apparently, the idea with this was that you could take an imported Game Boy camera picture of your face and import it into your. This is a Nintendo 64 game, and then it could be used, and then it would go onto the face of a character in the game.
And you might say to yourself, "Well, that seems pretty simple." It's like, no, it isn't. It's actually quite complicated.
So taking a black and white thing, like texture mapping it on the Nintendo 64.
Yeah.
Not known for its amazing texture abilities.
Yeah, and using a 160p image, I believe, was what the Game Boy camera could produce in resolution. A 160p black and white, probably pretty poor contrast image of your face, and then being like, oh yeah, we can make that into a map that can wrap over a face. It's like, that is...
Also, the face without the thing on it is very disturbing.
Yeah.
That's like a Guillermo del Toro kind of monster face.
Yeah, oh, it is, isn't it? So
it's like a person who's just like, from like the entire face part is just like computer snow or like television static.
I don't like it.
This was shown at E3. That's how I heard about it. It was
Also,
somebody talking about when they saw it at
I was
E3.
pretty sure the guy driving the demo, and I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure the guy driving it is Ken Lobb. I think he was the one showing it off.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I'm not sure. It went by kind of so fast. Like there's about 5 seconds. I'm like, is that Ken Lobb? I can't tell. But yeah, this was going to be a really cool thing to do if you owned a Game Boy camera and a transfer pack along with your N64.
Sure. Well, look at the view mapping for trying to like put it onto the face.
Yeah, watching it do it is kind of cool.
Pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, they canceled it largely out of the idea that, wait, you can just take a picture of a person and put it into a video game and then shoot them? There was a lot of that idea of that they canceled this because of politics, but apparently no. They just canceled it because it was computationally intensive for the video game to play. Not just the process of making it, but actually shooting, like running around.
All the textures that would be sort of dynamic.
Exactly,
I guess,
yeah. Because it wouldn't be you mapping your face onto the main character. It's you mapping your face onto somebody in the game that you get to see because it's all first person.
Yeah, but like, okay, like you make it sound like nobody has transfer packs. Everyone has a transfer pack.
For Pokemon.
Right.
If you play Pokemon.
Yes, but that was a very large franchise even then.
Right, but that also meant that it's like you would have to play Pokemon and you would need a transfer pack if you also owned an N64 and wanted to play your Pokemon in Pokemon Stadium. Like, the more things I check off this list, it's like the further we get down.
Sure,
and then
but this wasn't like an integral part of the game either.
Right, but then also like now we're saying not just having a transfer pack, which is something that's popular for Pokemon. Would you need a Game Boy camera if you played Pokemon?
The Game Boy Camera Color came with inbuilt software, and then it was used for
like I know you had a Game Boy camera.
A couple of things. No, I didn't. I wanted one desperately, and I never got one. I went to the Zellers, and hung out at the tiny booth that had the camera and everything. You could use the Game Boy printer to print off a sticker of your I completed 150 Pokemon.
Yes,
which I'm assuming you buy if you had the Game Boy camera.
I think you could buy them.
I think they were bought separately.
Yeah, I think they were separate items. They were separate SKUs. It's just that it's like when you start doing stuff like that and trying to line those things up, it's like it's always cool to have a feature that like, hey, look at the things we can do, and that might also help sell more cameras to be like, hey, look at how it integrates with other stuff. But largely, also, this is like Game Boy Advance era, I think, when the N64, was it? No. When they were developing this in 1999, the Game Boy Advance hadn't come out yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
So we were still on the Game Boy.
Because GameCube was the one that you could plug like 4 Game Boy
Correct.
Advances.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm just saying that this isn't like a Zelda Four Swords thing where you need like 4 Game Boy Advances and this and your GameCube and cables and all of that, and now get your friends to sit down together and to tolerate each other to play long enough.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's not an integral part of the game. Transfer packs were a thing many people had. Maybe the Game Boy camera was not, but if it was currently still for sale and available, that would have pushed sales for that maybe if the game had gone. Like, it's just... You, the way you state makes it sound like, oh, no one would have had any of this. And I'm like, today, no.
But I'm not saying no one. I'm saying vanishingly few people. As you get further down the list of things that you need, it's like there's less and less people who are going to have this kind of thing, which is why I can understand why they're like, it would be a cool thing to put into the game, but it's not like...
If it had not been as tech intensive and maybe... like, because they did show it off. I feel like they did intend to kind of want to do it. It got far enough in development that if they showed it off at E3, it was meant to be we do want this in the game eventually.
And it's largely why, do face raiders and stuff in on the 3DS. You could have done something like that on the Wii U if you want to as well, because like you have cameras built into the devices. Like that's why you tend to see more of those things show up on hardware that already has the features built into the hardware, because like, well, now we can do a weird tech demo style fun thing because so many people are going to have the pieces you need to make it work.
Yes.
Yeah.
It makes the thing more popular. I just don't think it necessarily excludes a thing from existing.
True. Yeah.
I guess, I mean, it's probably also one of the things where, you know, when you're that whatever 3 months to ship, looking at your feature list, you know, that's probably, it's like, do we need this?
Yeah.
To have people able to play the game? No. Okay, this gets cut.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised actually if something similar to that might have been actually used as like an internal texturing tool.
quickly generate new faces and stuff, to just be like, you know what, we rather than having to make that, we can just pull people's faces in
all the
fast.
guards don't have the same face.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just you brought up the face game that's on the 3DS.
Yeah.
Chances are good that exists because of some of the work they did with the Game Boy camera.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Anybody like Cookie Run Kingdom?
What? I've never heard of this game.
No, but I do like snacks, so tell me all about
It
snacks.
is a free-to-play mobile game from Dev Sisters.
Do I get free cookies? I play?
No.
Oh.
That's not what that means?
Free to play, not free to eat cookies.
Free to eat cookies. I'm getting
But
cookies later.
You are free to eat cookies.
You don't get any cookies, but you do get a big old snack.
I do like
'Cause
snacks.
BTS is being added into the game.
Behind the scenes? What?
K-pop supergroup BTS.
Oh.
Remember how we aren't into a lot of this stuff?
I mean, I don't ever see BTS. I don't see people shorten the thing.
I don't even know what do they have a name?
I don't
Is it
think they
BTS?
do. I think it's just
It's
BTS.
just BTS. Generally, when I see people use the term BTS, they're talking about behind the scenes.
During the event, each member of BTS will be transformed into their own unique cookie. And players will be transported to a specially crafted BTS themed map with all new game lore explicitly created for this update. The game has lore. It's a cookie
Why are
The
they
event will culminate in an in-game concert by BTS for the cookies in Cookie Run Kingdom.
Why are they cookies?
What do they look like? I need to know what they look.
We've just all we see so far. All they've released
Oh,
is
good.
a silhouette.
Those don't look at all like what cookie-shaped people look like.
If they all have cookie heads.
Oh no!
You can see like some of the people in the audience for like what the regular cookies look
I
like.
can't deal.
Hmm.
It's just that I'm like, I was just picturing the most blatant low effort thing where like, oh, this is, I'm going to make up a name here. I'm not going to make up a name here because I don't know enough Korean names. I was just going to pick a Korean name at random, be like, this is Park and from BTS, and
All
he's
right.
just one of those like square cookies that's like white and black, but it has like two
Okay.
eyes and a winsome smile, and that's who he's supposed to be. And I'm like, okay.
What? When does this game come out? Do
The
we know?
Cookie Run Kingdom's been out for a while.
Okay, so this is like an event.
This is like an event that's going to be happening. Yeah. The
need-
members are RM, Jin, J-Hope, Suga, V, Jimin, and Jungkook.
Okay.
Well, you have to be a sugar cookie if you're sugar.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I need everybody in the YouTube comments, not right now because I don't need you flooding the chat, but in the YouTube comments, I need you to express which person is what kind of cookie.
Yeah, who is
And
your...
if you don't know BTS, I need you to express what every member of Lure would be as a cookie.
Uh-oh.
There, homework.
That's better, yeah. If you don't know BTS, you have to do that instead.
There isn't
must.
actually a date on when this event was going to happen, but presumably it will be soon.
Or it already has. Because we don't play the game.
Boop, ba-doop, boop, boop. In Twitch content news,
oh no.
I mean, there's been a
What-
few Twitch things lately.
What did
but
they do?
This particular one is talking about gambling stuff.
Great, okay,
Oh, okay.
yes.
which is that there's been some controversy lately about people streaming gambling on Twitch, and possibly, not, for one thing, not disclosing whether they're getting money from the places that they're streaming gambling with.
Right.
So they're not actually playing with their own money.
Right.
But then also there was a recent high-profile thing of somebody, like, basically getting a bunch of money from their audience and from different people under false pretenses, and ended up just like spending it on gambling.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
not good stuff. And there's been a bunch of backlash against Twitch for
Saying, hey, this is okay to do this.
saying making gambling content out there, on a platform that is not explicitly, but obviously there's a lot of kids on the platform and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've taken an extremely halfway measure of
Yeah.
They made an update.
at this point, they made an update saying at this point it seems to be they're fine with gambling content, but they're blocking a bunch of gambling sites, or saying you can't stream gameplay on a bunch of gambling sites that are not based in the U.S., like they don't follow U.S. gaming laws.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's some kind of improvement.
They're unlicensed slots and roulettes and whatnot.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Because I think what they want to do is they still want to make sure that they don't end up taking out something like poker.
Yeah. So
Is the feeling I get.
Yeah.
which shouldn't be that hard. Like they're legally there's already a distinction between like slot machines and poker. But of course you do have to be there. There is, we've talked about this with loot boxes and other kinds of things where like those can very much be argued are gambling.
Yes.
And so it's the kind of thing where it can be difficult to write policy around this that doesn't capture things that you don't intend to.
Yeah. That is the trouble, right?
I think somebody was pointing out that like if they said no, like for instance if they said no games that have like loot boxes in them, that's literally like the top 20 games that are being streamed on Twitch right now.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go against your paycheck there for sure.
So yeah, it's a tough one, but I think there is, straight up, and again, we already do there's all sorts of debates around whether loot boxes are gambling and different. They're classified differently in different places, and that's changing and stuff in different contexts. But roulette and slot machines and stuff, there isn't that kind of confusion about. Like, we're all pretty clear on those being gambling.
We've definitely decided those are gambling.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be that hard
Ages
if
ago.
they wanted to block that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not block poker. Like that is something that they could very clearly say. They're not yet.
Because it's that whole games of chance versus games of skill thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also with loot boxes, there's the distinction where money doesn't come out. So
That is the argument against it, yes.
Yeah. So no matter what, you're always dumping money in. You're never getting anything of value out of it.
That should be your first red flag as to why you shouldn't do it.
I love the thing. I don't know if video slots work the same way or like online slots work the same way.
Right. Yeah.
But my favorite bit of trivia about slot machines, I think this is universally in the United States, is that legally slot machines like video poker or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Slot machines, when you put the money in and hit the go button, whether you have won or not has been decided.
Yes.
Legally, that is what happens. Anything that you do in the game, pushing buttons and doing things, does nothing. And not only does nothing, and that's not a conspiracy, that's like legally how it has to be. You can't actually have it be skill-based because it's the classification of slot machines. So once you push that, so all the buttons that you push are programmed to lead you to the already predetermined answer.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's like that stacker game.
Yeah, where it's like we've already decided that whether or not you're going to get to win this or not, and so As long as you can demonstrate the ability to actually hit the button at the right time, that the stacker game will be like, I will give up the prize. But if you don't, then you won't win it. And so
that makes it sound skill based. It's like the first prize you can get for sure. It's the higher up one,
right?
That it doesn't matter if you hit the button at the right time; it will.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean that. Well, that's what I mean. It's like it will always if you're not supposed to win this time and you hit the button at the right time, no, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
But it's like as long if the game has already decided you're going to win this time and you hit the button at the right time, then you should win.
Yes.
But if you were to like, I'm pretty sure that in something like that, if you hit the button completely off, I'd love to see somebody prove that wrong though. To be like, I have now set the game to pay out no matter what, so I'm going to hit the button at the wrong time and just watch it like, okay, I shouldn't win, and then watch it go bip.
Yeah,
bip,
I don't know.
Bip.
That would be interesting.
I won. Yeah.
But I don't know if that's
because then that just changes the whole nature of the game, right? It's like put a quarter and just go bang 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 bang, and then you'll know whether you won or not. You have to waste your time.
There's because James and I did a thing on 18 Games and Counting where gambling came up as like the 18th
game.
And so we played some like these like crappy slot machine website,
right?
Because a lot of websites wouldn't even let it because the laws are different in Canada, so they geo-fence it,
right? So
a lot of websites we couldn't even get into from Canada.
Mm-hmm. So you're in like,
we went into some website and did a thing, and there's stuff where like the slot machines where you just basically you feel like it's like I've got. I put whatever $5 into the thing.
Yeah.
And you have like all these like complicated choices to make, which don't matter, right?
Yeah.
You kind of want to just be like, okay, slot machine. I just want to make it, I got to push this button. Tell me when I'm out of money.
Yeah.
It's not like, the Simpsons, like, or the South Park where it's just like, and here's your money and it's gone.
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of the things that are worth money that maybe shouldn't be.
Here's your money, now it's gone.
Lorcana, the new Disney collectible card game.
It doesn't come out till 2023, by the way.
Yeah.
Yep.
Getting a lot of buzz, though. And from the very small amount of things that people know, they're excited about it. And to the extent that... So there's a couple of...
speculative auctions.
So, there's a couple of people
Some
who
cards
attended
exist.
The Disney D23 event. There were some special edition cards that you could get.
Yeah, they gave out some promo cards.
Some promo cards.
Yeah.
And now a bunch of those are up for auction for ridiculously large amounts of money.
Yeah.
Because that always happens at big events where they give away stuff that you can really only get at that event.
Right.
But what I think is unique about this is that not only has the game not been released yet, so like we have no idea whether the game will be like a successful game such that the cards
Or
are
how
worth
it plays.
money.
Yeah.
Or
But we don't know how it plays.
Yes.
There's this card, there's Mickey Mouse, Brave Little Tailor.
It's very cute.
which is a very good reference.
Has 8 up in the corner and 5/5 on the middle part.
right.
Is 5/5 for 8 good?
Yeah.
Oh, no idea.
We
Right.
don't know.
I don't even know how you
do
cast
the
them.
mechanics of the game that are explained on the card.
It's a 5/5 evolve for 8 good.
right? What does that actually mean?
There's a lot of cards in like alpha for Magic. Mm-hmm. Most cards, in fact, in the alpha set for Magic are complete dog poop.
Right.
Like they're just not competitive cards.
And on the other hand, there are some cards that are just completely fuck busted. Where
Right.
people are like, why would you have made this card? It's like, because at the time that wouldn't be a major problem in the game.
But so it's this funny idea where it's like we don't even know. Maybe this Mickey Mouse card is a piece of crap and that nobody will ever want to play.
Sure, but currently, game's not out.
Yeah.
There's only so many of these. If you have one, collectible. If
So
the game never comes out,
At the moment, it's
definitely collectible.
Yeah.
right. So like at the moment, it's just sort of a collectible Disney object.
Yes.
It's not
Yes.
actually like a card.
And that's kind of all you need it to be.
And you can, now, depending on the evolution of the collectible card game over the last 25, 30 years, there's been a lot, obviously.
There are a lot of them, yes.
So, And there has been so much development put into developing, into like, how do I make a game? How do I make a new style of game? How do I make a game that plays a certain type of way? And therefore, there's a lot of people who have probably played a lot of card games. Let's take Wheeler as an example. Wheeler might be able to look at that card and be like, I think that if you look at that card and maybe a few other cards, that yes, that seems expensive, or no, that is not an expensive thing if it follows specific types of rules based on the dozens and dozens of card games that I've played. They all tend to trend towards a certain type of behavior,
Sure.
right? And so it might be possible for somebody who's really into card games as a whole and really knowledgeable about that to be able to say, you wouldn't make a card like this because we can infer a lot about how the game could work, that this kind of card will be powerful or this kind of card might not be powerful or might only be powerful in certain circumstances, that kind of thing. But yeah, you can't really say right out, this is a great card and yes, it's worth $500.
Oh, apparently there was a beep from Windows. I'm sorry, I'm not actually looking at the streaming computer right now. We can't hear that. So you got to hear the computer and we didn't.
Ooh, special swings.
I think it's really funny because it's like a thing that I picked up at this Disney Day, whatever, as a promo. I'm going to go ahead and, like, Christ, we do that at PAX all the time, right? We'll go pick up promo stuff that they're just giving away at a booth. And then I'll be like, oh man, I really would have liked to have picked up that one thing. And I go on later and find out that, oh yeah, they gave that away at the last 3 PAXs and they're $40 now on eBay if you want one.
Sure.
And it's like, but it was a lanyard. It's like, doesn't matter, it's $40 because
Yeah.
you'll probably pay for it.
Well, I mean, they're hoping you will.
Yeah. But yeah, it is kind of ridiculous to just see like what is essentially a promo card and who knows what value it has to be like marked up ridiculously when we don't know anything about the game.
Even if it wasn't a promo card, I feel like even if the game was out
Yeah.
and they did give this card away, the same thing would happen. We've been seeing this happen with every other card game over the past couple of years with the pandemic and the pricing and the scalping.
I mean, like judge foils are an MTG or a thing that go for a lot of money, even though they're the same card as another card. They're like, yeah, but it's
Magic literally
limited
makes
edition.
collector's boosters.
Yes.
I mean, they tend to be the judge foils tend to be of powerful cards.
Yes.
But still, yeah. I mean, you could speculate that the Mickey Mouse card might be a good card in the game.
It's true.
I remember playing one of my friends was like buying a couple of packs of the Lord of the Rings card game, which existed way back in the day when they were making card games for like everything.
Right.
And he opened the pack and he got the One Ring, right?
Ah, yeah, that seems good.
And
yeah.
you know, we're kids and stuff, but we're like, that's gotta be one of the good cards, right?
Yeah. You can read into that. Do we?
I mean, I remember Exodia from Yu-Gi-Oh, and that just seemed like a pain in the butt to make it go off.
Do we think that Lorcana is going to be successful? Because I don't think it's going to be successful immediately.
I will say I have actually heard a fair amount of positive buzz around it from like, you know, Wheeler and people who are sort of invested in card games as a whole, not necessarily Disney in particular.
Right.
But it's just like apparently there's you know some things that have been talked about it are interesting from an actual like card game point of view.
I think it is a game that doesn't come out until late 2023, and if they're already kind of marketing it now and setting up buzz, and it has Disney money behind it, and not just money but
the IP.
the IP, the recognizability of it.
Yeah.
Chances are good it will do very well.
Could be interesting, I guess.
Unless it is very broken and doesn't play good at all, I think it'll do very well.
I think it's going to be one of those things that like, because there's been lots of card games with a lot of great IP that like try to take off and they don't go anywhere, made by people who really know how to make games as well. Like in the Transformers game, according to Wheeler especially too, he's like, that game was really good and just nobody has been playing it, and so therefore it didn't take off. And like, so I can see the Disney thing being like stratospheric, just everyone wants to start playing it immediately, but maybe it doesn't really go anywhere and people's imaginations doesn't stick for some reason. And so you'll see Disney pump and Ravensburger pump more money into it for more time than any other company would probably give it, just to try to see like if we can pump enough cards and enough money and enough whatever into this project, we can make it permanent. I think is where that comes from. Like, they don't have the ability of doing like Pokemon did, which is like, we will put these cards out, and then it became a phenomenon, and it was tied in with a whole bunch of other stuff. But it was coming into a market where lots of small players were bumping around at the same time. Lorcana's coming into a market where there's lots of big players bumping around.
Sure.
So I
But
think
like,
they
as
have
you
their
said,
work cut out for them.
You think it could become permanent. As far as
Yeah.
I'm concerned, that is being successful as a card
Yeah,
game.
but I think it's going to take them more time than we would expect it to take. It might take them a year or two to like really get to a point where it's like, okay, we know they're going to try to maintain this.
You can't determine if a thing is going to be permanent or not if it hasn't gone on for at least a year or two.
But some people will look at a thing like Lorcana and probably be like, oh, it's Disney. It'll be an instant hit and everyone will love it and they'll play it fucking forever. And it's like, I don't think that's something you could say right off the bat. I'm
Well, yeah,
I'm
but
like,
you could say that about everything.
it's true.
Yeah,
You can't ask me if it's going to be successful or not and then be like, let me
Yeah.
give you a reason why everything can't be successful sometimes.
Yeah.
I think there is an aspect where, you see this with online video games too, but with card games are even worse, more bad or worse for this.
Yeah.
Is that, people have a limited amount of time and disposable income and desire to, the total amount of money and time people want to spend on playing card games with their friends is finite.
Yeah.
And you're splitting that market with Magic and Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh and all this other stuff, right?
Yeah.
So to burst into that market is tough. And then plus, local game stores don't have infinite retail space, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And so, it's a tough thing to, break into, but
I think as long as they're not trying to position themselves as like, because I feel like I see this with other games and not card games because I don't hang out in that space, but with board games or video games where it's like, oh, this, especially in like a continuous game space, oh, this game is going to be the WoW killer.
Right.
This game's going to be
Right,
the
right.
whatever. And it's like, if the moment you position your marketing that way, I don't think you stand a chance.
that like in order to be successful, this game has to be one of the most popular games
Yeah,
of
it
all
has
time.
to surpass the thing. If you're just making a game and you're like, hey, we have a game and we think it'll work, I think your chances are higher.
I do find it interesting that at least right now Disney appears to be going heavy into appears to be positioning Lorcana as a physical game. Like they haven't
Yeah.
talked anything about a digital version of it,
Right.
Which is that's a tough move these days.
Right.
So that's an interesting one. It's like Flesh and Blood is sort of doing that as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's kind of interesting that they're not just doing like a digital version.
Do you think that, because I was looking at your Marvel Snap mug that we got as an influencer box, and that's a digital-only card game currently. Now, but that got me thinking, I'm like, we see Transformers, we see Marvel, we see Disney, we see a lot of major companies who have... Marvel is comic books. Like, when you think of Marvel, the first thing you think of is comic books, right?
Sure.
But when I say Pokemon, you don't think comic books. The first thing you think of is it's a game. Whether you
Actually, think of anime.
See, I don't even, I was like, Pokemon is a game, is what I
Sure.
think of. And generally, though, I think of video game is what I think
yeah,
of.
that-
But it is an interactive medium. It's like Pokemon was part of is an interactive medium. You think of Magic the Gathering, and you don't think of like the video games that they ended up making later. You don't think of like any sort of like movies or TV shows that might come out of that or whatever. Because it's always, Magic the Gathering has always been a game. And Hearthstone has always been a game. It was, even if it's pulled out of like Heroes of the Storm stuff, it's been pulled, but even that's based on a video game. And so I wonder if, are the more successful games gonna be the ones that are games, that they occupy that space in people's head to be like, this is a game, it's only ever always been a game, and so therefore all of the gaming games are all the ones that actually feel like, well, this is the thing that's supposed to be a game, and everything else just feels like a cheap IP cash in. Even if it's not a cheap IP cache, it's a very
I don't
expensive
know
IP cache.
If we have any, I don't know if we
Yu-Gi-Oh! Is
have-
about the only other one I can think of that would occupies like, it's an anime, no, it's a game, no, it's an anime, where it's like this split, where people might think of it only as one or the other.
I mean, I think it does make it changes the profit motives, which sort of changes how the game is structured.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I always thought that was interesting with like Pokemon, where they had this problem. They talked. I think we did a story on ChillPoint about the thing with the Pokemon card game, where there's been all this people buying up rare cards and doing things, and so Pokemon Company was like, okay, we're just gonna print 5 billion cards or something stupid. Like they massively overprinted the set.
Yeah.
Because from their perspective, the objective is to get as many people playing the card game because that's yet another on-ramp into the rest of the Pokemon franchise.
Exactly.
The video games and the anime and all this stuff. That's what they're doing, as opposed to somebody like WotC. They can't do that same thing because where they're making their money is the cards.
Yeah.
The I don't know.
Magic is always going to be this thing that's that's its primary pillar, right?
Like I don't think the Pokemon card game is like a lost leader, but the profit incentives are different for it. So it's just it's an interesting, and so like for Disney, there's probably a little bit of that as well, where like the card game doesn't have to make a ton of money because it makes a lot of money. It's worth a lot just as a promotional tool.
Yeah, it's going to depend on what their company like philosophies are, right? Or it's like, does it what's the line where we consider this a success?
Yeah,
it might be an on ramp, but we don't necessarily want to be making it at a loss,
right?
Yeah,
right. And
but
that's harder to read into a company like that.
And that's that still where I have this thing of like, will enough people be like, yes, I choose to think of the Disney cartoon properties, the classic Disney cartoon properties, as an interactive medium when for so many years it was a non-interactive medium. And it's like, are we as humans wired to only ever think of a certain thing in a certain brain space, and it makes it harder for us to break that brain space?
I think if a person who's not entirely a nerd and into everything like this walks into a store and sees Disney Monopoly because they know Disney, will pick up Disney Monopoly.
Sure.
I mean, there's been a lot of very successful, very well-regarded Disney video games, for instance.
But those have always been like as part of the thing you already know. They didn't release a Lion King video game, and everyone's like, what's this Lion King thing? And then like 2 years later release a Lion King movie. It's rare that a thing like that will happen where Disney makes a video game that actually ends up becoming its own thing.
It's Kingdom Hearts, I guess.
Yeah, that's the only one where and that isn't even like, they don't even have a movie for Kingdom Hearts. So yeah.
Well,
one could argue Kingdom Hearts itself is the movie.
Yeah.
They definitely put one of the games down into being a movie on the collection.
I think that I have stumbled onto something here that I've never thought of before.
I just don't think there's enough data.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
If we can get a child who's 5 years old who's never seen Disney stuff and only give them Lorcana to play with.
How?
Well, I don't know.
Okay,
why do all your ideas involve experimenting on children?
What? No, okay. First of all,
we find some
a 5-year-old
dogs
who
that-
has happened to not seen anything Disney whatsoever.
Sure.
Weird. But also, you want a 5-year-old to play a game that I'm assuming
I don't think that's the target
is not the target market for
expose
all
them
that
to
reading.
that so that they're really into that, and then show them that's like, oh, you like this game. It's like, yeah, this is fun. It's like, well, hey, your Brave Little Tailor card, actually they made a little show off of that. You want to watch that? Oh, yeah, that'd be awesome. And they watch the thing like, that's cool. That reinforces my love for the thing. And like, you're a very smart 5-year-old to be thinking that.
Yeah.
You're very media savvy. That's good.
Who is this 5-year-old?
We need more media savvy 5-year-olds out there, because holy shit, we do not have
Paul,
them.
stop and move on.
And the 5-year-old is like, what's media savvy?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I'll have to.
All right, let's talk about something else that costs a lot of money.
Everything?
The RTX, the new RTX NVIDIA series.
Right, the new 33,000 series cards, right?
The new 4,000
Didn't the 3000 ones just come out?
Like a year or two ago.
Oh, I see. Okay, fair enough.
You'll be forgiven, though, because nobody could get them.
Right, that was the problem, yes. And yet now you can buy an Evangelion branded one in our local Memory Express.
But, about a month ago, I think, 2 weeks ago, they finally did the Ethereum finally, after about 3 years
Right.
of talking about doing it, pulled the trigger on their switch to
Proof of stake.
proof of stake.
Yeah.
Which means that theoretically, one of the big like cryptocurrency or people using
One of the big
graphics
reasons,
cards,
yeah.
graphics cards for cryptocurrency is no longer no longer doing that. There are still cryptocurrencies that use graphics cards, and that wasn't the only thing that was causing graphics cards. There was also the just general supply chain issues.
Yeah.
But it's still something kind of cool. So there's these new RTX, the 4090 and the 4080. 4090 starting at $1,600 American.
That's rent.
4080 for $900. So
That's a car payment.
It's a bargain.
Wait, I'm sorry. What? How did you changed 10 numbers on one of them and you added an entire?
So 4090, 1600.
Yes.
4080,
900.
900.
Yes, for
So-
10 less in the 480.
Yeah.
I go
$600.
down a whole place value.
$700 actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or wait, no, 900.
What
versus
happens
1600.
in that 10 that's so
Yeah.
special?
I don't know. Yeah.
You could buy
We need
almost
a-
two
can we-
4080s.
Could we get a 4085, like a halfway? I don't know.
Maybe they'll do a TI edition at some point. We'll get our titanium editions.
I think So
Is it made out of gold?
there's all sorts of stats about what they do on different things.
in a way.
They're apparently made out of like electricity for one thing.
That sounds dangerous.
The 450 watt, the 3090 power. So this is not how much power it uses at all times, but its power envelope, as in what is recommended for the processor for your power supply,
You'll need to make this much available. Yeah.
is 450 watts, which is a chunk up from what it used to be, from what the previous generation was.
Yes.
So that's a lot. I think the power supply on my computer is like 500 watts.
For everything
Total.
else. Yeah.
So this is 450 for just your graphic card, and then there's other stuff on top of that.
Do these come with the little plug and the external box so you can power them right off the wall instead of having to?
I don't think so. I think
Okay, we've stopped doing that.
Yeah, that was a that was a stopgap.
Lovely.
These are internal things, right?
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
would you?
No. It used to. There was a series of CPUs back in the day where, in order to power them, because the power supply units wouldn't put out enough, they said, well, there's an external power adapter you plug into your card and you plug it into
Some
the
of
wall.
often at the end of a generation of graphics cards, they'll release like one more that's basically like a 5 or 10% performance improvement for twice as much power usage.
Yeah, I forget which ones those were, but if anyone remembers one, feel free to mention it in chat. But it wasn't the Voodoo 5; it was
right.
like something else.
Yeah,
There was there was an Nvidia something or other that came with
I'm
that.
just gonna not play games on the
Summing up a
computer
few
ever.
things that you might be wondering about this. So that thing with Ethereum was referred to as the merge. And now some of the reports I've seen is like 99.5% of stuff you'd have to do in order to generate Ethereum is now like those people are essentially dropping off the list because they're like, shit, I can't.
It uses that much less power than it did
I
previously.
can't generate, so we're now doing this thing differently, and it's like, yeah, that's
Okay.
And as people in chat say, it's important to note that these are this is the top of the top high end stuff.
absolutely it is.
There are also obviously you can get 3000 cards now.
Yep.
You can even get
Get your 2000 series cards; they still work great.
I have like on my home computer I have a 1070
Yeah.
and I can run pretty much any games I want at 1080p. You know,
Right.
I'm not doing 4K. And they're fine. They're sometimes there's little there's frame rate hitches and stuff, but it's
Right.
not bad at all. And this is a couple generations past that. We're talking 4K high frame rate.
You need
Stuff.
4K for your game of solitaire, though.
That's true.
4K solitaire.
Well, you
It's like I have
there's
real
4 kings
playing cards.
in the thing. Is that our last story?
It's good. There was something else about this that I was like, I wanted to. Crap! What was the other thing about this that
We're
was
just
really-
getting late in time.
Yeah, I know. We need to.
There's all sorts
slow
of
up.
fancy stuff in terms of new features in terms of
Right. These are the Ada Lovelace architecture, is what they're calling it.
new architecture.
Exactly. And that, to tie into that a little bit, is apparently that there's been a report that the new Tegra series type of or system on a chip, I guess, that NVIDIA's developing will probably end up in the second generation Switch that also apparently is supposed to feature Lovelace features. So
They've
it's
been
like
talking about that for ages.
right, but there was a recent slide that came out of NVIDIA's thing,
I know.
and buried in there was a thing to be like, oh yeah, there's this new series that series of Tegra type stuff that we're creating. So there we
know.
go. There's our
No.
But
it's-
my Nintendo tie-in.
No, I saw that. Like I saw a thing about
Yeah.
that, and it's like I love. It's the continued Switch Pro speculation
Yeah.
stuff where it's like, this is something that could theoretically be used in
Yeah.
the Switch Pro.
This is what we're thinking about. It's going to be the thing in the thing, and I'm like,
that
yeah.
must mean that there's going to be a Switch Pro.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, yeah, it could be a thing that is used in the Switch Pro.
Yeah.
There is no indication that it will be.
It could be the thing that we'll see in a year and a half to 2 years' time when they announce whatever successor to the Switch shows up. It could be a different version of that, because the Tegra chip that's in it, the X1 that's in it, is actually just it's not the X1. It's a modification of that. So anyway, Nobody knows.
It's bad when people in the chat are cheering for me to bail.
yeah.
All right. Let's call it there. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks for joining us on ChillPoint, talking about video game news. If you haven't seen this episode of Checkpoint, you should check it out. It is on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/LRRVG. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please give it a like and subscribe and all that good
Remember,
stuff.
which BTS or Lurker person is what cookie
Yeah.
in the comments.
What kind of cookie? So let's yeah, I think that's all. Of course,
Yeah.
thanks supporting us on Patreon, patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. And yeah, until next time, we will talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.